Um, I come from a school of filmmaking in which I think it's almost an unconscious premise is that film is made in the editing room. That's where you make the film. Everything you're doing before then is accumulating, designing, shaping, and building, but accumulating the raw materials you need to make the film in the editing room. So that means that in the writing and in your director's preparation, you're planning what you're going to edit in the editing room, and then you better go out and make sure that you shot those things you're going to need in the editing room. And it's actually the Russian montage approach from the 1920s, which was then embraced by British cinema in the 30s, by Weimar cinema in the 20s and 30s, and then also migrated to some American cinema. So our orientation is actually from the editing room backwards to what we're shooting. So the way I think about what I'm going to shoot is very definitely how things come together in the edit. Now, I will modify it once when I see dailies, and a new editing pattern will present itself, and I'll direct the editors to edit it that way. But it's usually pretty close to what I've first imagined, or I at least want to see what I first imagined. Then, if that works great, one hones it. If it doesn't work, you just change it and do something else. Editing is magic. It's where all kinds of things can happen, things you never thought you'd do before, or I might conceive of a scene as it being a very complex, very fast cut scene, intercutting static heads with a moving camera, and you get into the editing room and you see a high wide angle shot that slowly zooms in, and you say, this scene plays in this shot without a cut. It's the most musical, if you like, part of the process. It's where you take, Tarkovsky called it sculpting in time. It's where you take the totality of an experience and it plays. It plays as a symphony plays. It may play very poorly, it may play very well, but it definitely is something that plays across a time frame. And the ability to manipulate and shape the rhythms, the emphasis, the story you're telling in editing is almost total. It's quite extraordinary. I think I'd say in conclusion that making films is one of the most kind of, for everybody involved in it, from the camera department to production designer to Colleen Atwood, this fabulously talented costume designer who then has worked with John Demme a lot. And did one of the other films, and working with the actors, it's a privilege to have found this profession, and to be able to inhabit a sometimes very unpleasant, ugly, horrendous, sometimes very funny and dramatic, but definitely dynamic place for a chunk of time, and they become almost like I imagine experiences of any intense experience, and you have a certain unification and almost familial sense. Then everybody goes on their way and they go off and they do other jobs, they do other films. But there's a particular intensity to the making of this film. I may not see Joan Allen for 5 or 6 years at a time, but if I bump into her backstage at a theater in New York or something, there's a bond there because of having done this. The same thing with Brian Cox, and of course Dennis Farina, who I've known for 22 years, and particularly with Billy Peterson. So there's a real kind of a privileged, and I feel privileged to have this experience and to work with the fine people who made this film.